Hello all, and welcome to the first series on this channel, A History of Inkunzi. Inkunzi was a nation RP that ran from November 2020 to May 2022. It started with around 36 players controlling and telling the stories of various tribal powers, but eventually grew to span the entirety of this world's history, from the formation of empires, the rise and fall of feudal powers, the birth of populist revolts, until ending with the Great War of Inkunzi. This series will be zooming in to tell individual stories that occurred during that time, and the first one begins in the far east of the Cradle, with certainly the unluckiest nation in the tribal age, if not the entirety of the game. A nation which began with all the others, but only lasted a single day, and would never again attain independence. Since the Great Awakening, Peel I had worked tirelessly to expand his nation, claiming the land south to a nearby lake, establishing trade with nearby people of Mataram and Kisselback, and building rice fields and irrigation canals. He also started fortifying cities, constructing large wooden walls with moats surrounding them. During this rapid expansion, some Wick priests from Kisselback entered the nation alongside their merchant contemporaries and started spreading their faith. A move which was largely ignored but would have far-reaching consequences. Peel I, seeing the opportunities in those who surrounded him, decided to conscript the warriors and half of the hunters in every town, centralizing them in the capital. They were organized into several groups, including the Home Guard, the Raiders Army, and the 1st and 2nd Expansion Armies. The expansion armies were put to use quickly, aiming to expand eastward to the borders of Ekua. And though there were several small skirmishes, no larger conflict broke out. Having personally been with the 1st Expansion Army, Peel learned firsthand the difficulties of supporting an army in the wilderness, and decided to build numerous camps across the nation and the claimed lands to support those armies. The next few months were spent training those armies, which now numbered some 12,000, nearly a quarter of the populace, as well as developing housing, roads, and markets. Having nearly a quarter of his people in the army, he decided there wasn't a reason not to use them, and directed the entire expansion army, numbering some 6,500, to invade Mataram to the east, while the Home Guard manned the borders to prevent any counterattacks. Additionally, the Raiders army was sent north to start raiding the towns of Kisselback. Meanwhile, Peel I would take his personal bodyguard of 25 men south, along the coast to investigate the rumors of some mushroom people. And while he did confirm that they existed, the mushrooms weren't pleased to see him and accused him of heresy. Peel only barely escaped, but his bodyguards weren't so lucky. Upon his return, he learned that his raids into Kisselback had sparked outrage amongst the newly converted Wick people in Mataram, who had risen up in rebellion. Additionally, the Holy Guard of Kisselback had rallied to defend their lands. Through some expert maneuvering, the 600 or so defenders had managed to surround the raiders, and a battle ensued. Though the raiders outnumbered the defenders, they weren't able to break through their lines and were forced to retreat in a disorganized manner, losing many. Additionally, the 2nd Expansion Army of 2,500 started to try and combat the rebels, going door to door in the villages and towns looking for the instigators, but it was too late. Many of the rebels had started assembling and now numbered nearly 8,000. Seeing the immediate threat, Peel recalled the 1st Expansion Army from their campaign to join the 2nd Expansion Army in fighting the rebels. Not wanting to recover the raiders' strength, Peel gathered his entire army of just under 12,000 to fight the rebels. Unfortunately, the armies of Kisselback had pursued the raiders and joined the rebels. A hard-fought battle, with many thousands falling, but eventually the Wick forces would come out victorious. The rebels quickly accepted being ruled by those who were leaders of the Wick faith, while Peel I fled into obscurity. Now, the results of this battle would have a pronounced effect on the entire region, with the Wick followers quickly forming the United Holy Kingdoms, an early superpower in a time of great struggles, which would last until a new power rose in the east and started looking west.